Well, let's get to our first discussion this Monday afternoon. Economists have warned that the monetary and fiscal policy authorities in Nigeria must collaborate to avoid a fresh rise in inflation following the retention of the country's benchmark interest rate at 27.50% by the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria on Thursday. CBN's MPC retained the rate at the committee's 299th meeting in Abuja. The CBN Governor, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, announced the decision during a press briefing on Thursday after the meeting, stating that all parameters were unanimously held as the committee assessed the economic outlook for 2025. According to the CBN Governor, the committee was unanimous in its decision to hold all parameters and thus decided as follows. 1. Retain the MPR at 27.5%. 2. Retain the asymmetric corridor around the MPR at plus 500 and minus 100 basis points. Well, let's talk to the president of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, to give his views on this development by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Mr. President, good afternoon and thank you for joining us despite your tight schedule.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Well, let me say that were you also expecting this retention? Because many analysts that I spoke to before this meeting said it was wise for the CBN to retain this rate. But I know that you will be able to help us understand it from the angle of the private sector players. What do you make of that decision of the Central Bank of Nigeria? Was it expected, considering the outcome of the CPI rebasing figures that we saw from the NBS?
Yes, it is true that most observers in the economy expected the central bank to hold the various parameters, but more important, as the beginning of a gradual easing in order to now focus on economic growth stimulus. The central bank has focused on reining in the excess liquidity in the system and trying to fight inflation in the process. But of course, what has happened is we have paid a significant price in limited growth opportunities for operators in the real sector of the economy, considering the interest rates at about 35 to 40% if you are borrowing from a commercial bank. So yes, central bank was expected to hold the rates at the beginning and then begin to gradually ease. We expect to see a gradual reduction of the MPR in the foreseeable future in order to begin to shift to an emphasis of growth stimulus around monetary policy. Right now, the stimulus of growth is coming more from the fiscal side of the economy. It's the fiscal side that is promoting all the growth drivers that we are having now. So if CBN now signals that it's going to start easing, then the private sector will be also preparing to do a lot more investments that will be now bankable because the cost of borrowing will hopefully begin to go down. So the expectation was what it is. I think that's for most observers in the economy. That was the situation before the CBN announced the rates.
In the speech of the central bank governor, clearly I saw it there that there were some positives identified, like stability in our external reserves. We've also seen a bit of stability in the foreign exchange market for some time now. And they're saying that all of this were put into consideration. But reacting to some of these positives and what we expect with regards to the GDP coming again from the NBS, a rebased GDP, do you think that really we could call these positives and do you see light at the end of the tunnel?
So certainly there are a lot of positives, and we try to remind ourselves, where were we in January 2024 and where are we now? You just need to look at a lot of parameters in January 2024 and look at where we are now. In January 2024, we were not certain whether we can produce refined products, let alone exporting refined products. And we should always remind ourselves that import of refined products was taking 30% of our import bill up till December 2023. So that is a very, very big shift in the economy. So the economy, as far as petroleum products are concerned now, is no more a consuming economy. It's now a producing and exporting economy. So that fundamental is what is reflected in some of the positives that we are seeing. Also, we are beginning to see a slow but steady reduction in public transport costs, which is one of the drivers of inflation. For every week or every month that passes, there are more Nigerians that have access to CNG buses that cost, in most cases, 70% less than PMS to operate. So that is also driving the positives that we are seeing. So as the months unfold and a lot more people transit from transportation based on PMS to transportation based on gas vehicles, we will see the inflation driven by transport costs really coming down. And some reduction in transport costs will also feed into reduction into food inflation, because a significant portion of food inflation is the transportation of everything in the food chain, from the raw materials, from the farm to the warehouse to the factory to the market and down to our dinner tables. There's a lot of transportation costs that are embedded in the final food price that we pay. So these positives are beginning to show. They are early days in showing, but they are beginning to show. And so they are in our face, really, if for anyone looking very carefully in the economy, that these are beginning to happen. But it's going to be down the road, maybe 6 months, 9 months from now, that a lot more Nigerians will begin to see the benefits affecting them directly in terms of transportation costs coming down, in terms of food prices coming down. We are beginning to take for granted availability of petroleum products almost everywhere around the country. This was not the same 15 months ago or even 12 months ago. So these positives are there. And so there's a basis for the confidence that we will begin to see a significant improvement in the economy down the road, maybe third quarter, fourth quarter. Most people will begin to agree that, yes, there's some improvement.
In the FX market, the CBN governor is saying that the convergence rate between of course, the official and the other market is becoming better than what it used to be. And he said thanks to the NAFEMS window, also the Bureau de Change operators have become, I think they are now working better than they used to be. And of course, the launch of the code, that's the FX code that was launched recently. In your thoughts, really, do you agree that there's been a bit of stability in that market? Do you think that we have enough liquidity that we should also have? Because we know that it will get to that point where manufacturers will need FX, at least to import. So maybe this might just be for some time. Or you think this would be sustained?
Well, I think the most important credit should go to the central bank for the FX code. Because one of the issues we used to have in our FX market was lack of transparency.
Yeah.
Now with the code, the market is relatively transparent. Everybody can apply, can demand for FX in a market that is neutral, supplier neutral, buyer neutral. And so the market tries to come out with the real market price. So having said that, we certainly do not have enough liquidity yet in terms of inflows. Our sources of inflows are still limited to whatever oil we can export and the non-oil exports, which again is slowly but steadily increasing. These things are happening daily. Non-oil exports are growing slowly but steadily. So a lot of that is going to manifest over time. In the, in, 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 it's not likely for us to see a sudden increase in liquidity. But there are sources of liquidity that are growing slowly but steadily. There's foreign direct investments that are coming in. There is non-oil exports that is growing. The AFCFTA protocols have started. We are seeing, certainly from our own members in the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, we have seen a lot of exports now leaving the country under the AFCFTA system. And all of this is reflecting in the relative stability that we are seeing. And it's only it's a trend that will continue because they are driven by changes that are here to stay. That is to say, we are not going to go through another round of removal of oil subsidy. We are not going to go through another round of foreign currency convergence. So those certainties are there. And that's one of the main thing that business community is looking for. What are the certainties? From this year, we have certain certainties. We know that we are not going to announce another fuel subsidies gone. We know that we are not going to have massive arbitrage between official rate and private or parallel market rates in exchange rates. We also know that, if anything, in-country refining capacity is going to continue to rise. We are hopeful also that the increase in crude production, which we are seeing from the efforts of the oil and gas industry, is going to increase. And one significant reason to expect that is that government has achieved the divestment of unproduced oil fields, onshore fields, to Nigerian oil companies who are preparing to expand. Some of them have started expanding those oil fields, which have been idle for many years, some of them decades. So all these things are coming together to show the positives. They are aggregating to the positives that all observers are saying, including Central Bank. And there's a lot of confidence to believe that they will continue, that all these positives will continue. So a lot of them are actually irreversible.
Let's touch on the foreign scene as we almost wrap up this segment of the show. A lot of considerations considering the war over there, and of course what's been happening with Trump's policies. That was also identified during this conversation on Thursday. How do you see that also affecting, of course, Nigeria? We are not isolated from all of this, but what impact do you see that having on our entire economy going forward, and decisions that would be made in forthcoming meetings?
Well, sort of directly, we will be impacted to the extent that some of our trading partners are impacted directly. Mm-hmm. So the impact we will get will be limited and will be indirect. The reason is that America stopped buying Nigeria's oil a long time ago. So whether they buy our oil or not, America is no more one of our top trading partners. If you read the figures the last 1 or 2 years, America is really way down among our top trading partners. So in terms of those direct impacts, it's going to be limited. But for the partners, our own partners that are directly impacted, we may have the ripple effects on us. So that is why while we are looking at what the new American president is doing from a distance and trying to see how much will be affected, the fact of the matter is that if you look at any of our major products, America hardly buys any of our oil. They hardly buy any of the other non-oil exports. There's a small amount of non-oil exports that go to America through Nigerians who sell maybe packaged foods and a few fashion items. And the main export item that goes around the world that may be impacted a little from America, but not much, is the services from our creative industry. The Nollywood and our music stars probably will still go to America anyway and still provide their services in America. irrespective of what the current president of America is doing. So we don't see any massive impact on us. On individuals, of course, who want to go to America, of course, they will be impacted if they're unable to go, or if they are there and do not have documentation to remain there. So there will be limited impact, but at the end of the day, we will be able to see as the year unfolds to what extent Nigeria will be impacted. But everything indicates that it will be quite limited.
Finally, the next meeting is in about 2 months. I think it's in May. And many say that a lot of expectations ahead of that meeting. So let me ask you, do you think that when we get to that point, there might be a reduction in rates? Because many say this few months is going to be to monitor what we've seen, what the figures from the MBS and all of that. But do you think that there's a possible hope for a reduction if we get to that point?
Yes, most of the MPRO decisions in the next 2 or 3 meetings will be signaling, indicating that we believe that things are moving in a certain direction. So a very small reduction in the rate will be meaningful in terms of that signaling. To say we are seeing improvements in the key economic parameters, and so this is a signal. So we are not going to see a very significant reduction in rates, but an indication that more reductions are coming. We may see just a very, very sort of symbolic or nominal reduction. But we have to look at the way the CBN now is always looking at a medium to long-term strategy in what it's doing. So it's not taking decisions essentially on a quarterly basis or MPRO meeting to MPRO meeting. The CBN has, since the new governor resumed, has looked at medium and long-term perspectives in most of the policy decisions that have been taken. And that's why we are beginning to see the improvements at the beginning of this new CBN's governor's tenure. A lot of people did not understand the basis of his decisions and what his strategy was. But as they now unfold, people now understand that he had some clear strategy was working on, and is gradually introducing those changes, calibrating them to sort of align with what is going on in the rest of the economy. So we expect to see a very small reduction in rate.
President, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, thank you so much for joining us on the show this Monday afternoon. We really do appreciate you, and have a great week.
Thank you.